Thank you all for tuning in. This is Selena and Iman. Together we make You Plus Happy. Each week we bring you someone who challenges us to define success and happiness on our own terms with a dose of laughter. Remember to follow us on Instagram at You Plus Happy, on all platforms at You Plus Happy. Like, subscribe, share, all of that. Hi, Iman.
Selena,
How are
how
you?
are you? I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm good.
So, did anything fun or exciting happen this week for you?
No, but
All right, moving on.
no, but I was gonna say, Jeffrey Martin, a guest we had on our first episode, actually, his book released, and I ordered it, and it just reminded me to be more supportive of everyone, because we're all trying to do things, and I know I follow so many people who are releasing amazing work, and I just want to remind myself and others, let's support. Let's drop a few coins behind the support. So that was my big takeaway from the week. What about you?
My big takeaway, nothing exciting really happened, but as the holidays are approaching, we had me and my team at work, we had like a holiday lunch thing. So it was nice because of COVID, like we don't really get to see each other that much. So it was the first time that we've all been together in one area for months. So it was just nice to see everyone and, like share stories of some of the crazy stuff that we deal with on a regular basis. But it was just a reminder that like how important that face-to-face interaction is. I think it's easy to forget that when you're in isolation a bit. So it was nice.
Yeah. Oh, I'm glad you guys got to do that. How was the
and
food?
I had talking about food again. So I had I like food. So they have this pizza that is cheese pizza with sweet chili and sour cream on top, which is very different. And I was like, I'll try it, but it's like it's a big thing out here in Australia, and it was actually really good. So
Really? Sweet chili.
Like sweet chili sauce, and then like a side of sour cream. So you dip the pizza in the sour cream. So yeah, just like try something new, and I actually liked it.
Oh, good.
It's nice.
Sounds interesting. I would try it.
You know, convinced. You're like,
No, I'm trying to picture it. But it sounds interesting. So what are we doing this week on our show?
So this week we're going to switch it up a little bit as we come to the end of 2020. We want to do a bit of a reflection of this year, the ups and downs, and just talk about what we've taken away from it. It's gone by really fast. I feel like.
Yes.
Crazy.
Yeah, for sure.
I guess we'll start with just one word maybe that describes 2020 for you.
Interesting.
Okay, good word.
What about you?
I would say transition. Lots of transitions. And why interesting for you?
Well, one, it was a lot of uncertainty. So that made it was interesting to know what was going to happen from day to day. And then it was a time of self-discovery and like forced slowing down and all of that. So I learned a lot about myself. I think, it was interesting to learn that, those things that I didn't know, like hobbies that I enjoy and stuff like that. So I think that's why. Why did you say transition?
So I think that this year, compared to all previous years, I've done the most transition. So like coming to Australia, the culture is very different out here. And then also coming during COVID, was just transitioning at work in terms of working from home, learning to do things, everything remote. It's gotten better now, but like going from a job where it was very interactive, very hands-on to something where it was a lot more remote. Transitioning to not having my own transportation, that was a challenge. Like relying on public transit. Like literally everything that I've done this year has been, for the most part, new.
The cars, you didn't get your own transportation because the cars aren't they really expensive out there?
Not so much that, but a lot of the contracts are 3 years, and I'm not sure. I'm only here for 2 years unless I extend, so I'm not sure if I'm going to stay longer. So I didn't want to be on like a 3-year contract if I'm going to be leaving.
Yeah.
So I didn't have commitment issues. So it was like I was not ready to commit to 3 years.
Okay.
And I didn't want a payment either because I was, so.
Yeah. So moving forward for 2020, but what were I know you said transition, but what were your biggest takeaways from this year? Or what were you grateful for, or what did you learn?
I think my biggest, I'll start with grateful. The one thing that I really value, not that I didn't value it before, but I think I realized how important it is just my family and friends.
Yeah.
Just being able to lean on them or like call them when I am having a rough time. This has been a very stressful year. For me, work has been very challenging because it's a whole different world that I'm in now in terms of the work that I'm doing. So it was nice to be able to call and kind of have someone to talk to. My biggest takeaway, I would say, is realizing how adaptable I am. Like, I feel like there's been so many changes that I've had to do over the last 12 months. And I'm like, all right, this is a bit stressful, but like, I'm going to get it done. I'm going to make it work. So I think reflecting, I'm like, oh, I didn't realize, because I like structure and I like routine. So I didn't realize how flexible I am within that as well. So it was a growing period, I guess, reflection.
Yeah. And you got to learn about yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Because you probably didn't know that you could be so flexible.
Yeah. What about for you? I know that I was excited when I finally was like, oh, okay. Like,
yeah. My biggest takeaway, or what I'm grateful for, I'm really grateful that I had support this year because it was a different, I should have said transition too, but it was a different year. New careers, relationship transitions. So, but in that, I'm really grateful that I had my friends and my family throughout it. And I know that sounds cliche, or trite, but it's like, I really don't know what I would have done without my friends and family. And I'm honestly, I think I took it for granted, but I'm also grateful for the podcast because it kept my mind occupied in a time where it could have been a little too idle, especially like at night and the weekends, when I was kind of winding down from the other projects I'm working on. I feel like, a devil's mind is an idle mind is a devil's workshop. So I'm glad I had this to keep me like focused and grounded. And then I got to talk to you every week. You moved, and so I don't think we would have talked as often as we have. We would have talked nowhere near this much, I don't think.
That's very true.
um, and and also with the podcast, like I think we're hitting our goal as far as the motive behind it. I feel like I not to be selfish, but I get a lot out of the episodes from our guests. Um,
Yeah.
I've learned a lot, and so and we'll get into our guests and stuff later on in the episode. But um, so I it wasn't until last week when Luvia was on, and I was like, well, I need to really think about how grateful I am for the podcast, because I kind of took it for granted and just thought about all the work I was doing, not in a negative way, but just like focused on getting things done instead of taking time out to say, wow, this is something I'm really happy to be a part of.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know if they answered the question.
Yeah, that's good. I think too, like reflecting back before we launched, I remember there was so much anxiety for both of us,
Yes.
and so much planning and so much like everything needed to be perfect.
Yeah.
I mean, not that it was perfect, but I think for me, like when we finally launched, it was like, okay, like we've gotten past this, because I think that was our biggest hurdle starting out, is actually putting our stuff out there for other people to see.
Yeah.
And it's definitely still a work in progress, but I know for me it was a lot easier to have conversations with you and plan with you when no one else was watching, as opposed to other people being able to see like what we're working on.
Yeah, I would not have done this by myself. I know I've said it a million times, but it's the truth. And like, even with the day we launched, I was like, I wish I was like with you, like, because you were at work, and because like we're in different time zones. Well, we're different days, but
Yeah.
so and that was my week to release it.
Oh, yeah.
I was like sweating. I was like, oh my god, everybody sees this. It felt a lot different than I thought it would. I thought I would just be excited, but I was just so nervous. Yeah, and because we really put ourselves out there.
Yeah. So anyone that wants to start something new or a podcast, it's normal to feel all that anxiety and all that uncertainty before you launch 100%.
And you're gonna be judged. That was one of my things. Like all my friends, not all my friends, but well, yeah, all my friends are gonna see this on Instagram. I'm like, but you just do it.
Yeah, and it's never gonna be perfect. I think that's what I've had to accept. Like it's a process. So as we go on, it will get better and stronger. But yeah, if I was doing this on my own, I'd probably still be planning. Okay, so 2021, 5 years later, I'm gonna launch, but so I would have found different things that needed to happen before. So
analysis paralysis, and
exactly.
I think we use that to like a mask. The real issue is like fear, honestly. So yeah, I was gonna say something about that, I forgot, but yeah, I'm glad. Listen, ain't no chance in HE double hockey sticks that I would have done it alone.
Yeah, and stuck with it this long. I think that's another thing. Like,
no, and this is the last thing I will say. From the beginning, though, once we said we were going to do this, we were pretty consistent. I know we took off. It wasn't even that long, maybe a month. Then you were freaking moving across the world. The planet Earth. So
you were moving too, weren't you?
Yeah, I think I was moving too. So per usual, when am I not moving? So it was like, well, that was completely warranted. It wasn't like we were like, oh, let's just blow off the meetings. So I will say, to our credit, we've been very consistent and reliable in this. And that's another thing that I can say I'm really grateful for. Not to go on this long thing, but I feel like a lot of people would have been like, oh, I can't do it this week, or I can't do it that week, or we only have so many listeners right now, and not being patient with that. So it's really important.
And I think too, like, not to hone in on the point, but the fact that we're both really passionate about this, it was more so like, I mean, granted, we still want people to listen and get something out of it, but I feel like we both got something out of it. So it wasn't like, oh, we have to interview this guest again, or we have to, like, it was something that we both look forward to. We're like, oh, like, how can we learn or grow from this guest? Which I think helped. Like, if we were talking about auto mechanics on the show, I'd be like, girl, I'm busy this week, sorry.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Yeah. It was something we both wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
Aren't we lucky?
Yes. And you developed a new skill.
A lot of new skills.
Well, what in particular that I'm like, in terms of the past?
That's another thing they say, like, it's not about the destination or reaching your goal, it's about who you become in the process. Not to be all cliche with a bunch of quotes, but it's true. Who I've become and who I'm becoming in the process is so, I'm so grateful for. Not, even like patience and listening and meeting new people and all. So, I mean, I guess when I said all those new skills, that's what I was talking about, but we've learned to like run a social media page for promo, edit, talk to people we haven't talked to, write a script. Like, there's so much. Oh, we giving too much behind the scenes.
It's a lot that goes into it that we didn't know starting off. We just, we'll just get on and record. It's like, not really. Although some people do, but I think what we were trying to go for, we were like, oh, wow, there's a lot more that goes into this. And the podcast is just the starting point. Mm-hmm. So we do, like, we have lots of things planned in the works for 2021. So very excited about that.
So what else do we have on the agenda for today?
What would you say was your biggest challenge that you overcame in 2020?
Not thought about this. I want to give an honest answer. Come back to me. What's yours?
Okay. I mean, I think my biggest challenge goes with the area that I grew the most in, is just being, like, I've learned that I can be adaptable, but it was not easy at first. Like, wanting to plan and have an idea of like what my day is going to look like on a day-to-day was something that was just normal and comfortable for me. And knowing that I, like, in the position I'm at, that's not, like, you can have your day planned out and nothing on that schedule will happen. So for me, it was really, really stressful at first. And I'm just like looking for other jobs. And I was like, I still wanted to stay here, but I was like, I don't know if I can do this work because it's just all over the place. And I don't operate well like that. But I think being able to be like, all right, Mom, like, this is just what it is. Like, stop going in every day with the expectation of how your day is going to plan. And I think when I let go of that, it helped me just be a little more at ease with, all right, so I know I'm going to work, but I don't know what the day is going to look like without holding on to this idea of like, all right, I got to do this, and this. And I think the other challenge is going to be not spending the holidays with my family, but that hasn't happened yet, so we'll see.
Yeah, sorry about that. As far as spending the holidays with your family, because you didn't anticipate that. No one did when you left.
Yeah.
So didn't know it was going to go down like this.
I know. But, you know, everyone's struggling with that at the moment, I feel like.
Yeah. Except for the people who don't want to spend time with their families.
They're like, yes, I can't travel. Oh, I'm sorry.
Dang it.
Here.
Sure can't come. Hey, ain't that something? But it sounds like what happened as far as like you adapting. I think that's such a good lesson. Like, stop focusing on what you want something to be and look at what it is and accept it for what it is. Mm-hmm. I think that's a reminder for life, like all situations, that when you're trying to change it in your mind or wishing it would be a different way. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What about you? What was one of your?
So it was, I had some, I didn't want to be like TMI, so how can I say this? It was some times where it's like, I should have done this. I wish I did this. Blah, blah, blah. And I started going on a lot of walks this year because it was COVID and everything was closed except outside. So I realized how much I like the walks, and they are more than anything, they clear my mind. And the other day I was on a walk and I was like, okay, my brain was like, I'm tired of you complaining. Like, what are you gonna do? This is the problem. What can you do about it? You can't go about the past, but how do you want the future to be? And so I think that's like an abstract idea of like my challenge, but it was really like, what are you going to do moving forward to make sure that you don't end up in that situation again? And really just being accountable and responsible, and like, and then I was like, okay, what are the solutions to this problem? And then I was like, and I made a list in my mind, and I was like, wow. And it gave me my power back and made me feel like I was back in control, and I didn't have to dwell on what could have been or wasn't or whatever. And move. So that was the biggest thing, like looking at what I can control, focusing on that, and just being patient. Working on my patience. So I think, I don't know, does that answer the question?
Yeah, I think that's such a good skill to have too. I can't remember where I saw this quote, but they were basically just saying like you can't control the past, and you just have to move forward with what you said, like what it is right now. So being able to, I think it's easy to get so caught up in what happened and like the stress of that, as opposed to like, okay, what can I do next?
Yeah.
So
and
that's
going
good that you recognize. No, I was just saying that's really good that you're able to do that, because I think a lot of people struggle with that.
Yeah. And going on this, like telling yourself, playing this movie in your mind, well, this, I would have done this. If I could go back to this, I would do this like this and this like this, and then this wouldn't be like this. And it's like, girl, use your imagination for something better, because you're wasting your damn time.
It's fair.
It's just a waste. It's really a waste of time. It's nice to reflect on the past so you can make better decisions going forward. I do say that. I even told my brother, we were talking about something, and I was talking about my happiest time in my life. And it's not to dwell on that, but what created that? And how can I make sure that I keep my life in alignment with what makes me happy? So I think it is important to reflect, but not dwell. And not sit there and make a damn movie about. Don't do that.
Unless that's your goal. If your goal is to make a movie.
Yes. I'll be like, I should have done this. I should have done that. Shut up. You're just whining and it's pointless. So yeah, I hope that was helpful.
So looking forward, since we're no longer dwelling on the past and it's almost the end of 2020, what's something that you are looking forward to for 2021 personally, and maybe with the podcast?
So with the podcast, if we do it every week with guests, we would have 52 guests.
Hey,
that's a lot.
That is a lot.
A lot of folks. Hey y'all. So I'm looking forward to that, and like who we're gonna meet. I'm excited to interview people that like I don't know. I luckily, you know, we've been in our network, and I had some of your folks I didn't know, and vice versa. That's really exciting. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. Wait, I keep talking. You didn't answer that question first.
Answer what question? The challenges?
No, the one you're supposed to look forward to in 2021.
Oh, because you. Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you want me to, you were on a road. Just go.
I'll edit it if I need to. Personally, you know what? I don't know, because what's funny is last year a friend and I did a vision board party, and matter of fact, it's right there. And yeah, and then Roro came in March, and it was like, girl, your vision board, we don't care about that. So some things did happen on there, but I don't know. I'm almost like trepidatious to make a bunch of plans, and then they're like,
yeah, and not knowing.
yeah. So I know I want to progress in my career and just keep growing on a personal level and like get my mind right so I can be prepared when crazy shit does go down. But put my armor on, get ready because it's crazy out here.
Unpredictable.
Unpredictable. So what I'm gonna do every day, wake up, be productive as possible, keep working on my career, my goals, and keep my mind right because they're wilding out here. What about you?
So I think in terms of the podcast, I'm excited and nervous about meeting new guests because, like you said, most of the people are at least in our network. So it's almost like they already, a level of comfort, even if I don't know them. I'm like, oh, like that's someone Selena knows. So I'm excited to bring in guests that are outside of our network, but also there is a little bit more pressure, I feel like, with that in terms of like, we don't know them, they don't know us. And but I am excited with the networking piece of it and meeting new people, starting to potentially collaborate with new people. I'm excited about. I think personally would also be moving on with my career. So starting to think about what the next step is for me. I really want to do my own thing / create my own position. So my wheels have been turning with that in terms of like how I can fit into different aspects of my job. And rebuilding some of the relationships I've had back home since I've been here. There's a handful of friends that I feel like I still talk to regularly, but there's some of the relationships I feel like have dwindled a bit because I am so far away in the time difference, but relationships that I value. So trying to put more effort and energy into connecting.
Yeah. Okay. Well, good luck.
Thanks.
So for the episodes, I just wanted to say a quick takeaway from each one if we have time. And I would say, so our first episode was, we won't be able to do this next year because we're going to have 52. So, but this year we only had 7. And our first guest was Mr. Jeffrey Martin. And I don't know. I had my biggest takeaway from everybody, and then I forgot. But I remember he said, if you want to do something, just do it, and don't worry about people telling you no. Just keep pushing past that, and let the no's motivate you. I think that's the thing that sticks out in my mind about that episode.
Yeah, no, that was a good point. I think with that one, the biggest thing that stuck out was how he talked. He kept referencing how he had these, what he called angels, like strangers around him whenever he needed some guidance. And I thought that was really interesting, just to be able to be open and take in that advice. So I don't feel like everyone necessarily there was like, oh, I don't know you, like, why are you talking to me? Whereas being just more open with advice, even if, they might not necessarily meet that idea of like, oh, this is someone that I know or that I value their opinion. So I think that's something that I've attempted to do, is just be more open to, just hearing people out.
Yeah, that's good. And then we had Darian. From his episode, I really like when he was like, don't worry about what anybody tells you their definition of success is. listen to what your own definition of success is and follow that. Even if people judge you for it. I like that. And I think about that. And also he said, when he said he could meditate anywhere, and we were like, could you meditate at the bar? Like, and he was like, it doesn't have to be all like what you see on TV, a traditional meditation, but just mastering it in any way that feels right for you.
Yeah. So I think from that episode, there was a lot of takeaways, but I think one of the things that stood out for me was that how he talked about how he was always opinionated and how he recognized that at a young age, but rather than, allowing it to be seen as a negative, he's like, he used it for a positive and now has a podcast all about voicing his opinion. So I think that was just interesting for him to recognize his strengths at a very young age and be like, okay, how can I use this to get me to where I'm trying to go?
Yeah, and spin it. Yeah, I like that too. And spin a negative into a positive. I really like that. Then we had Dr. Shanetta Weatherspoon.
What's the doctor?
I feel that. I'm not gonna lie, I loved all the episodes, but Dr. Weatherspoon was probably my favorite. And my favorite, I literally think about this every single day. She was like, treat your life like a business. And I was like, I can't play with my life. After that, I wrote down like I reorganized the budget in my life. I redid like my time, everything. And just paying attention to what I give my energy to, and like just really overseeing and taking like an hour or two a week to really just go over everything that's going on in my life and assess it. And I was like, I have to treat my life like a business. I liked a lot of things she said. Follow your first mind. And then what I got from her episode was perseverance. So she didn't let things stop her. She might have had to stop take a break from things, but she didn't stop. And so it really is. All the episodes inspired me, but that one probably inspired me like the most.
So. Yeah, no, I definitely liked her episode. There was so much that I took away. I think one of the things that she kept kind of coming back to was just having strong women in her life.
Yes.
So she had to go through all these challenges, and like you said, she just kept persevering, but also being able to identify people in her life that were her backbone, and recognizing like she couldn't have done it alone without these people. I think that was really interesting, because I think sometimes, especially with me, I'm just like, all right, I'm independent, I got it. Like, I don't want to inconvenience anyone. I don't want to, be a burden.
Yeah.
But also realizing like your network is so important, and who who guides you is really important as well.
Yeah.
And she's doing so much. So I think that was also a bit of motivation, like, Iman, like, can you step your game up?
Yeah.
Got 2 kids, 2 businesses, like writing a book. I'm just like, all right.
Her PhD while she had children, like
teaching college, like, okay, girl.
Superwoman much.
I think for me, it's like, all right, it's doable. So just gotta do it.
And she still seems fun and energetic, like not burnt out or whatever. I don't know, but I loved her episode.
I have to get her back on when she releases her book.
Yes, I will be looking forward to that.
Yeah.
Then we had Dr. Ari Aycock.
Doctors in a row. I just realized that.
Hey, good, honey. Yes, this is a dignified show.
Everybody.
What did you say?
A mixture of everyone.
Yes. But my biggest takeaway from Dr. Aycock's episode was an overall, she said a lot of things that stuck with me, but what I really got from her was an overall sense of listening. She cared about what we said, and that's not like, I had to edit the episode, and what I saw was like, she was just really wanted to understand what we were saying too. Does that make sense? And like, I
Mhm.
felt heard, if it makes sense. Even though we were interviewing her, I felt
Yeah.
like she wanted to hear what I had to say and that it was valued. So
Mhm.
that's like that quote, like by Maya Angelou, people won't remember what you say or what you do, but they remember how you made them feel. And that was a feeling I got from that episode. Um, and just her seeming like, sometimes we put doctors on pedestals, but seeming like normal, if that makes sense. And it
Yeah.
made me feel like, I don't know, I really like that overall feeling of the episode.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Yeah. So I think with her episode, I agree. I also felt heard. And I know that that's something that she mentioned she has worked on, like within her personal life, is just being more receptive to people. But I think one of the things that stuck out for me with her episode was her ability to break through kind of some, I don't know how I'd word it, like, but she mentioned how she was a lot of times the only female, the only Black female in her classroom, being a vet. And then also after she gets her degree, being at a university where she's also the only Black female,
Yeah.
and having her like opinion and knowledge just questioned a lot, and just how she pushed through that. So I thought it was just interesting for her to be able to be like, hey, like, I know I'm not supposed to be here per se, but I'm here, and you're gonna I'm gonna make sure that you see me and are aware of like what I'm bringing to the table. That was one of the things that I kind of took away from
Yeah.
her.
It can't be
Uh,
easy.
yeah. I
Um,
also like when she was talking about the deep breathing, she's like, even if they can hear me,
yes.
I was like, no, I don't know if I would have the courage to. Someone's irritating me, I'm just like, I go.
Well, what would you rather, that or, I mean, I think that's probably the best way
Yeah,
to handle
yeah,
it.
I think it is. But I'm also like, I have to learn to do that. Just deep breathe and just like, all right.
She's doing that. What I remember, she's doing that for her health and her sanity, and that, not sanity, but like, so she can respond to it in the best way and for herself. So
Mhm.
she's putting herself first in those moments, and I think that's
Yeah,
important.
yeah, which is so important.
Then we have Reem Ali Adib, who, that was my like most fun episode. I felt like Reem is somebody. Okay, I don't have to do her bio again. I used to volunteer with her, and I always thought she was so nice, so fun, so smart, and so I was so excited to have her on the show. What I got from that episode, I think the biggest thing was like, you never know how people perceive you.
Yeah.
So I had all these, I had put her on like a pedestal almost, and she was like, no, it wasn't that way. And she had kind of done the same in some instances. So I think I learned like, you never, just be more, not be so hard on ourselves and say, you don't put people on these pedestals because everybody has their thing.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and that art can be a career. Don't
Hmm.
Doesn't have to just be a hobby. And don't listen to people trying to like tell you can't, maybe, and just push through that, because it wasn't negative, but her parents didn't understand animation and they wanted her to kind of go into something that they understood just out of protection because they care about their daughter. But
Hmm.
for her to have that, I don't know what, I'm losing my like the word right now, but for her to have that, just push past that and pursue it anyway, I thought
Hmm.
was amazing. So that's something to remind myself. Some people might not be able to see it or have that vision. It doesn't mean that they anything negative, but you have to have that vision for yourself.
Yeah. No, I agree. I enjoyed having Reem on too, and I think that that episode um, was the most challenging, but also the most enjoyable in the sense of that she was asking us questions,
Oh yeah.
and I was just like, wait, no. But afterwards when I listened to it, I was like, oh, I like the fact that it did feel more like a conversation as opposed
Mhm.
to an interview. So I think um, that was something that I was reflecting on. I was like, oh, like growth in just recognizing that it doesn't necessarily have to be a certain format. Just let it flow however it is.
Yeah.
Um, But yeah, I think from her episode, perseverance was a big one.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and just, it seemed like she always kind of had an idea of what she wanted to do, even though she took a break for a little bit. She knew what she was passionate about. And she's like, this is what I'm going to make as a career, and this is what I'm going to do. And just her openness. Like she kept saying, like, we need more animators. We need people of like color to come and women. So just sounds like she's someone that would be open to being a mentor and being like, look, this is how you get into this field, which I appreciate.
Yeah. Yeah. And she's so talented. So, because I get to see her, you know, she posts her work on Instagram and it's so good. So, everyone on the show is talented, but I mean, you can go see her work if you're listening to this. You can go to and then we had Christina O'Neill on the show. Christina, what I liked the most was that advice. I forgot who she said gave it to her, but like your name will travel further than you ever will. And to me, that was like, be cautious of how you present yourself, because that's gonna travel, good or bad. So just be really on top of that, and just being mindful and respectful to people, because they're gonna talk. So
they will, yes.
uh-huh.
So I think with Christina's, because I've known her for so long, it was interesting. There were things that were brought up that I'm like, I've known you for so long, but I didn't know a lot of this kind of backstory of what was going on. So I think one of the things that I took away is that you never really know what's going on behind closed doors. So when I tell you, like, I used to be at her house every day after school and not knowing like some of the trials and tribulations that she was dealing with. But I think the biggest thing that stuck out with hers was just resilience. So it's like she kept getting hit with different challenges. Hers was a bit heavier than our other guests, I would say. But for her to kind of overcome so many challenges and be resilient and still provide for her family and move along in her career, I think speaks volumes to just how resilient she has been and continues to be.
Yeah. And the other thing I want to say, I forgot, as her being so vulnerable and open with us on this platform, because she didn't have to do that. And I think, I don't know if she knows this or not, but I feel like it will help so many people just not feeling alone when you're going through those things, like somebody else did. So I was really, really appreciative of her vulnerability too.
Yeah. No, I agree 100%.
And then our most recent episode and our last one of 2020, our last guest of 2020 was Luvia Rivera. Did I say it correct?
Yes.
I loved her episode. I loved all the episodes. Let's be very clear. But so I'm gonna, I don't, you know what? I actually just edited that episode. I can't even, there's so much. There's so much. I'm trying to narrow it down. I think what I got from it mainly was feeling motivated and inspired because I too want to live overseas and I live abroad, and for her to do it in so over 10 years in so many different places, and she's traveled to Ghana, I think she said Ghana, Jerusalem, London, Australia,
all over UK.
Yeah. So it's like, she was like, oh yeah, I was in Thailand and I met a friend. I'm like, oh. So I took a lot away, and I'll probably think of stuff later that I'm forgetting to say, but I know that's one of my dreams. So I just felt like it was realistic when you see somebody, when you meet someone who's doing what you want to do, and you realize if they can do it, you can too. So I felt that. I think that's what I'm thinking of the most right now, but I'm sure I have more to say.
Yeah. No, I loved having Luvia on. I really wanted her on because she's such a free spirit, but also so down to earth. So like, she's not. So I've met people that travel, and it's like, oh yeah, I've been here, and it's very like pretentious almost. Whereas she's just very down to earth and just like, this was my experience, encouraging. But one of the things that stuck out the most to me was that she I just had it in my head and I forgot. Oh, I do remember. So when she was talking about different aspects of her journey where she was fearful, rather than kind of reverting and being like, oh, this is outside of my comfort zone, like, let me take a step back. In each instance, she's like, oh, I'm afraid of this, let me lean into it, which I think is a skill. A lot of people don't do that. I know that I don't always do that with my fears. I'm like, no, this feels uncomfortable. Whereas she would lean into that fear, and it sounds like she has grown and experienced so much because she is open to being like, hey, I'm afraid of this, let me challenge and conquer this fear. So that was my biggest takeaways, like, how can I lean into my fears a little bit more and not just be like, oh, this is uncomfortable, let me take a step back.
Yeah, instead of running from it. And I knew I would think of something else when you said it, but also an overall sense of knowing herself that I admired, and just honoring what she knows about herself and honoring that. And I feel like that's something that I could do a lot more of, like just paying attention to how I feel in certain situations, knowing yourself better, and then making better decisions moving forward that are more in alignment with who you are. So I really appreciated that.
Yes.
Yeah.
We had some really amazing guests on.
Yes.
Like, I think it's like sometimes when you're in the weeds of it, it's like, all right, we got to book this, we got to do this interview. Like, and obviously we look at it when we're trying to like promote, but I think being able to look back and reflect on everything was really good to just feel like we've had some amazing guests, and I'm excited about what's to come.
Me too. And I think it was really a good exercise for us to stop and reflect on our guests and just appreciate them and thank them again. And we're very appreciative that they gave us their time too. They didn't have to. So, and then 2021, we'll see what it has in store for us.
We're excited. We have some things in the works, so we're excited to share it with you guys.
And we're going to close out, and we will see y'all in 2021. Thank you all for listening to us. And we couldn't do this without you. Again, don't forget to like this episode, leave a review, share. We always appreciate your feedback. And remember to subscribe to our podcast at U Plus Happy. We'll see you next week, same time, same place. And we are going to just say our own tagline this week. Together?
Yes. Let's see if we can time it.
We'll show you.
Are we saying it really slowly, or are we saying...
I'm waiting for you.
Okay.
We'll show you
our definition of success if you show us
yours. High five. Ching. Ching. All right. See y'all next week.
See you next year.
2021.
Yay.